Hello, this is week 4 homework out of our textbook, page 310, 7 through 27, 37 through 48. I'm going to break it down to its different sections. 7 through 15 is asking us to, given an equation in y equals mx plus b form, to talk about the slope and the y-intercept. All right, now for the slope, it's always the number that's with the x. All right, so we're going to do both of these here at the same time. So my slope for this first equation is simply just a 3. Right, that is the number that's with my x. Right, that would be the rate of change that we have over and over again. For each x would be increasing by 3. This one is a -6 with the x, which means we would be decreasing by a 6 for every x we have. Okay. Now the y-intercept is just the number, it's that b value that's listed at the end of the equation. Right, so for us here, and I asked us to just write the slope as a number, the y-intercept as a coordinate point. All right, now when we're talking about y-intercepts, that's us on the y-axis. So I've gone 0 in the x direction. All right, and then for this case, we have a +1 as our y value for our y-intercept. That's the coordinate point for my y-intercept. Now the second equation, we don't see anything here, and that's because it is at 0. Right, so I'm at 0 in the x direction and also 0 in the y direction, which means we will be at the origin. Right, we'd be starting right at the intersection of that x and the y-axis. All right, so there's those two for us. Now 16 through 27, it says given some information, so the slope and that b value, right? So m and b, write an equation in y equals mx plus b form. All right, so all we have to do is we keep our y is equal to, now we replace the m with a 3, so I've got a 3x, and then plus a 2 here. And that's all it is, just plugging in this m, substituting this m in for that, so we put in the 3 for my m, b was 2, put in 2 for that, and so this is the equation in slope-intercept form that has a slope of 3 and a y-intercept of 2. All right, now on 37, it asks us to do some graphing, and it wants us to follow our graphing standards. Now for us, that means straight edges on all lines that are drawn. All right, so I'm going to start to draw our axes lines like we would here, and I'll take us through the standards. So first thing is using our straight edges. We want to get our axes drawn here. All right, and we're going to want to label them. So this is my y-axis. Over here, this is my x-axis. Now, for you all, be sure to carefully label and scale. So we labeled x and y-axis. Now scale these as well. We need to know what scale we're talking about here, what we're going with. All right, for each graph, all right, we have to do that. Okay, so we see that there. And now let's start to talk about our equation. We know we start with that b value, that y-intercept. And in this case, it's a +5. So on my y-axis here, I'm going to want to start at a +5. Here's my first point. We're going to want to use slope, that value that's with my x, to talk about our rise over run here. All right? But I don't see a value with that x, which means that it's really just a 1x. Right? And we know that when we're talking about this, we talk about rise over run. Right, and when you're going to need a run here. And whenever we only see a number up top, only a numerator, we can always add in 1 as that denominator. All right, so let's tell me I have a rise of 1 and a run of 1. All right, so I'll be charged with going up 1, right, for my rise, and then I'll be running 1 to the right. All right, so starting from our y-intercept, we'll go up 1 and to the right 1, and we'll have our next point here. All right, and we do that pattern a couple times here to verify that we are indeed having these turn into a straight line. Right? We're working with linear equations. They will be perfectly straight here for us. Okay, so just following the pattern, we see that all of these points fall along that line. Right? To get from one point to the other, I can go up and to the right, up and to the right, up and to the right. Right? And then we connect that using a straight edge. All right, so we've got this here. We'll be able to draw our line like that. Some important information. Following the Ballard graphing standards, toss some arrows on the ends of our lines. Right, and that's true of our axes lines here. You can see I've got little tiny arrows at the top of all these lines. Right, and that's how we graph this first one, following those Ballard graphing standards.